At the far edge of South America, there is a place where the world feels untouched. A land of endless winds, towering peaks, and ancient ice, a place shaped not by people, but by the raw forces of nature. This is Patagonia. Here, mountains rise like stone cathedrals, their sharp summits carved by millions of years of storms. Glaciers stretch across the horizon, creaking, shifting, breaking the silence with the deep thunder of falling ice. Vast grasslands roll into the distance, home to wild horses, guanacos and pumas that move across the land as they have for centuries. And at night, the wind carries the sound of emptiness, a reminder that in Patagonia, human beings are only visitors. This is a place of extremes, where seasons can change in a heartbeat, where the sky feels impossibly wide, and where nature still rules with absolute power. Welcome to Patagonia, one of the last great wild frontiers on Earth. In the deep south of Patagonia, where the Andes begin to fracture into broken teeth of rock and ice, there is a place that feels almost outside of time. A place where the world is still being carved, slowly, relentlessly, by ancient forces that have shaped this land long before humans ever arrived. This is Perito Moreno Glacier, one of the few glaciers on Earth that is still advancing, still growing, still pushing forward, as if refusing to surrender to a warming world. Stretching more than 30 kilometers across the southern Patagonian icefield, Perito Moreno is not just a wall of ice, it is a living, moving landscape. A frozen river that flows more than 2 meters a day, groaning under its own weight, cracking, shifting, and reshaping itself constantly. Its surface looks calm from a distance, pale blues, white ridges, gentle curves of accumulated snow. But the moment you get close, everything changes. You begin to hear it, the sound of a glacier breathing. Deep thunder rolls inside the ice, echoing through its chambers. Sharp cracks split the air like gunshots, and then, without warning, massive towers of ice, some the size of buildings, break off and collapse into the water below. These moments are called calving events, and no matter how many times they happen, they never feel ordinary. They are reminders that glaciers are not frozen in stillness. They are engines of movement, slow, steady, unstoppable. Perito Moreno is one of the most accessible glaciers in the world. Visitors stand just hundreds of meters away from a wall of ice that rises nearly 70 meters above the waterline and far deeper below the surface than anyone can see. But what makes this glacier truly unusual is its behavior. While most glaciers everywhere else are shrinking year after year, Perito Moreno continues to advance. Scientists still debate exactly why. Some believe it is perfectly balanced between snowfall in the mountains and ice loss at the front. Others think the geography around it channels its weight in a way that helps it maintain its size. Whatever the reason, it stands as a rare reminder that nature does not always move in the direction we expect. Standing before it, you can't help but feel humbled. The scale is overwhelming. The cold air carries the scent of ancient snow. The lake below reflects the glacier's blue glow like a sheet of glass. And yet, despite its power, Perito Moreno is also delicate. Layers of compressed ice hold centuries of history. Tiny air bubbles, trapped for thousands of years, create its hypnotic blue color, a shade so deep it almost looks unreal. For many travelers, Perito Moreno is the moment Patagonia begins to feel like another world. Remote, untamed. honest in its beauty and unapologetically raw. Here, time moves differently. The glacier advances, fractures, collapses, reforms, a cycle older than any civilization, older than any map, older than memory itself. And as you stand on the viewing platforms, listening to the ice shift in the distance, you realize something. You're not just watching nature. You're witnessing the planet working, a slow, patient process that continues whether anyone is here to see it or not. Perito Moreno is not simply a destination. It is the opening chapter of Patagonia's story, a land shaped by extremes, demanding attention, and reminding us how young humanity truly is compared to the world it lives in. There is a part of Patagonia where the land feels almost unfinished, as if the world was still shaping itself when the first winds arrived. Here, mountains rise in impossible angles, carved by ice and polished by storms. Jagged peaks cut into the clouds like the teeth of ancient stone giants. And below them, vast plains stretch for miles, rippling under the constant breath of the southern wind. This region is known for its extremes, for seasons that change in minutes, for skies that can shift from calm blue to violent grey without warning, and for storms that come racing across the land with nothing to slow them down. Yet it is this very unpredictability that has carved one of the most dramatic landscapes on Earth. Glacial lakes sit at the foot of towering cliffs, glowing in shades of blue that seem almost unreal. Rivers twist through narrow valleys, fed by meltwater that has traveled from ice fields older than memory. Herds of wild animals move carefully across the open steppe, always alert, always negotiating the balance between risk and survival. The wind here is a force of nature all its own. It tears across the plains, shapes the trees, sculpts the snow, and carries with it the sound of emptiness, a sound that belongs only to places untouched by time. For those who travel through this region, each viewpoint feels like a revelation. Massive cliffs appear suddenly from behind rolling hills. Rock formations glow red at sunrise and fade to violet at dusk. Clouds cling to the peaks like silent crowns, and when the sky finally clears, the horizon seems to stretch forever. This is a land that humbles anyone who enters it. A reminder that nature, in its purest form, is not gentle, but it is beautiful. And despite its harshness, life flourishes here. Birds glide on powerful updrafts, barely moving their wings. Wild cats roam the shadows of boulders and ravines, and hardy plants take root in soil that freezes, thaws, and freezes again. Everything that survives here survives with purpose. For travelers, this region has become a symbol of Patagonia's wild identity, a place where the raw forces of earth, ice, and sky meet with overwhelming intensity, where silence can feel as loud as a storm, and where every landscape seems crafted to remind you of your own smallness. This is Patagonia at its most dramatic, its most unforgiving, its most unforgettable. There is a side of Patagonia that few travelers ever see. A world not carved by ice, but softened by shadow and rain. Deep in the southern Andes, far from the open steppe and the roaring winds, lie the forests of Patagonia, forests that feel ancient, humid, and almost otherworldly. These are not the bright, orderly woodlands found in much of the world. They are tangled, wild, and alive with secrets. Here, moss drapes over fallen logs like a green living blanket. Branches twist in shapes that seem older than memory, and the canopy filters the light into a soft, dim glow, a reminder that this land did not evolve for human eyes. Many of these forests belong to the Valdivian temperate rainforest, one of the rarest forest ecosystems on Earth. Only a handful of places share this climate: Chile, parts of New Zealand, and nowhere else. It is a world shaped by endless rain, volcanic soil, and the slow persistence of time. Massive trees rise like pillars in a forgotten cathedral. Koigie, Lenga, Manio, and the legendary Alers, a species that can live for thousands of years. Some of them sprouted long before entire civilizations even existed. The forest floor is a tapestry of ferns, lichens, and small streams that weave quietly between the roots. Everywhere you look, there is motion: dew dripping from leaves, mist rising from the ground, insects humming between shafts of soft sunlight. But what makes these forests extraordinary is not just their age, it is their isolation. For millennia, the Andes shielded Patagonia's forests from the rest of the world. Animals evolved here with almost no predators, no large land mammals, and no competition from the outside. As a result, the ecosystems feel fragile, almost sheltered. Hidden among the foliage live some of Patagonia's most elusive creatures. The pudu, the world's smallest deer, scarcely larger than a dog. The Magellanic woodpecker, whose echoing knocks carry through the silence like distant drums. And in the shadows, almost never seen, the guiña, one of the smallest wild cats on Earth, moving like smoke between the trees. Even the wind behaves differently here. Instead of ripping across the land as it does on the steppe, it whispers through leaves, turning the forest into a shifting sea of green. And when the rain comes, and it comes often, everything transforms. Colors deepen, droplets cling to leaves like crystal beads, and the forest seems to breathe, slow, ancient, and unchanging. For many travelers, Patagonia is a place of ice and mountains. But these forests remind us that its identity is far more complex. They are the quiet counterbalance to the region's violence, the softness to its severity. A hidden sanctuary where life thrives not through strength, but through patience. To stand within these woods is to feel something rare, a sensation that the world around you has existed long before you arrived, and will continue long after you leave. There is a region in northern Patagonia where the landscape softens, where the jagged world of ice and wind gives way to something quieter, something unexpectedly serene. This is the Lakes District, a place where ancient volcanoes rise above valleys filled with deep blue water, and where forests stretch out like green oceans beneath a sky that always feels on the move. Here, the land tells a different story, not one of violent storms and shifting glaciers, but of time, patience, and the calm work of nature shaping beauty rather than survival. The lakes themselves were carved thousands of years ago by retreating ice, their basins left behind like footprints of giants. Today, they mirror the world around them with almost perfect stillness. Mountains reflected so clearly in the water that it becomes difficult to tell where the horizon actually begins. On calm mornings, mists drift slowly across the surface, curling like ghosts rising from the depths. And as the sun climbs higher, the water shifts through an entire palette of blues: turquoise near the shore, sapphire in the center, and green where volcanic minerals mix with meltwater. Surrounding these lakes are forests that feel ancient, towering Coihue and Lenga trees, their trunks twisted by decades of wind and weather. Moss covers everything, rocks, branches, even fallen trunks, giving the forest floor a softness that seems almost unreal. This is one of Patagonia's most biodiverse regions. Birds call from the canopy, woodpeckers drum against old trees, and foxes move silently through the underbrush, leaving only quick prints in the damp soil. You can walk for hours and hear nothing but the soft rustle of leaves and the far-off sound of water meeting the shore. But the Lakes District is not just peaceful, it is also dramatic in its own way. Snow-capped volcanoes rise above the forests, their symmetrical shapes dominating the skyline. Some are dormant, others still breathe, sending faint columns of steam into the cold air, a reminder that this quiet region sits atop a restless earth. Rivers weave through the valleys, fast and clear, tumbling over boulders that glisten like polished stone. Waterfalls appear without warning, sometimes thin and delicate, sometimes roaring with a force that echoes across entire valleys. For travelers, the beauty here feels different from southern Patagonia's sharp intensity. It is gentler, warmer, more welcoming. People come to kayak across mirror-like lakes, to walk forest paths that glow with filtered sunlight, to sit in silence and watch the world change color as the day passes. And in the evenings, when the winds quiet down and the last light settles over the mountains, the Lakes District becomes a place that feels timeless, a world suspended between earth, water, and sky. As the winds sweep across Patagonia's open plains, life continues here in quiet, deliberate rhythms, each creature shaped by the challenges of this land. Across the steppe, guanacos move in graceful herds, always alert, always listening. They are among Patagonia's great survivors, navigating vast distances in search of fresh grass, raising their young in a world where predators might be hiding just beyond the next hill. High above them, the Andean condor circles effortlessly on the rising air. With wings wider than a person is tall, it barely needs to move at all, letting the wind itself carry it across the mountains. Its presence is ancient, almost mythic, a reminder of the age and scale of these lands. In the forests bordering the Andes, life follows a different rhythm. Here, the shadows shelter small foxes that move silently through the undergrowth, woodpeckers striking the bark in slow, steady patterns, and tiny birds flitting between the branches, adding color to a landscape dominated by stone and sky. Even the elusive puma calls this region home. Most travelers will never see one, but its presence is always felt. In the stillness of the valleys, in the careful movements of the herds, in the balance that holds these ecosystems together. Every animal here tells a story of endurance, a story written not in comfort, but in adaptation. To survive in Patagonia is to read the land, understand the wind, and follow the rhythms of a world that has remained wild for thousands of years. And so, as we leave these landscapes behind, we carry with us a reminder that there are still places on Earth where nature remains truly sovereign, where glaciers continue to carve mountains, where forests breathe in the silence of ancient cycles, and where wildlife survives not in defiance of the elements, but in harmony with them. Patagonia is not just a region, it is a living testament to the raw forces that shape our world, and to the fragile beauty that emerges when nature is allowed to be itself. Thank you for joining this journey through the edge of the earth.